Hey, class, and good afternoon. Welcome back to Introductory Psychology for week 3. I hope everyone's enjoying their extended weekend. Some of you may have gotten Friday off, and many of you will probably have tomorrow off. So I really hope you get to enjoy that time, either relaxing, catching up on work or Netflix, or being with friends and loved ones, whatever that entails. So happy early Labor Day. Yeah, I was at the University of Oklahoma where I take classes and I also teach. Unfortunately, I don't have classes on Monday, so really no break for me in that regard. I really don't have anywhere to be on Monday other than right here at this desk doing work for school and other things. So that's probably what I'll be doing tomorrow. Maybe try to get out and swim or do something fun. Who knows? But good weekend. We have college football is back. It's really exciting. I go to the University of Oklahoma, so I'm a big Sooners fan. But working for Oklahoma State, even if it's the the OKC branch, I still got love for the Pokes and was really happy they won. I think it was Thursday they played and won. So I think it's awesome that our state, anytime we can have both teams win in the state, until they play each other, then obviously there's both teams can't win. So that's a little contentious, and I won't tell you where my loyalties lie at that point, but just know that I'm really happy that both teams played good. And no offense to anybody if you're from this particular state, but it was also nice to see that Texas lost yesterday. So as an OU fan or as an OSU fan, maybe we can mutually agree that it's fun to watch Texas lose. Unless I have class members who are from Texas or root for the University of Texas, then disregard what I just said. So anyways, welcome back. Let's talk about week 3. Before we do, I wanted to talk about your discussion posts from week 2. For the most part, I think your initial posts are great. I'm really enjoying your initial thoughts and readings, but this week I started becoming a little more picky about your posts in terms of how I grade them. I counted off points, and I don't think I counted off anybody's for your initial post itself, but I noticed that there were quite a few of you, when you responded to your peers, your posts were kind of short. Maybe they were like only 2 or 3 sentences. So I'm looking for a little more than that. I'm looking for a full paragraph, at least a full paragraph when you're responding to your peers. I think that's totally that's doable. So what I typically do is I will give a point for every meaningful sentence in your discussion post, up to 5, because I think a paragraph is typically 4 to 5 sentences. So typically if you say, hey, great job, nice post, I don't count that. I don't think that should count. But when you start getting into talking about what the other person said in their post and how it's relevant to you or how you connect to or what questions you have, that's the stuff I'm looking for. So if you didn't get a full 15 out of 15, you either got points deducted for the length of your post or your response post, or if you didn't get it in a timely manner. I automatically deduct 2 points if you don't have your post in by Wednesday. That gives everybody a chance to, get their post in on time and still have time to look over others and respond and such. So I think that's a fair, it's a reasonable expectation on my part. So if you're wondering why you didn't get 15 out of 15, those are probably one of the 2 reasons. If you're more specific, you'd like to know, just shoot me an email. I'll be happy to share with you, my thoughts on the topic. So anyways, I'm really enjoying reading your thoughts through the discussion posts. I'm also really enjoying your response papers, Number 2 is due tonight. If you're watching this on Sunday, it's due tonight. If you've already turned it in, don't worry about it. But if you're still you're waiting to turn yours in, please get it in tonight. Otherwise, it is 40% off late if I have to grade it tomorrow. So, or if I receive it tomorrow and not tonight. So, let's see. I'm kind of going down my agenda here. Let's see. Okay, so that's kind of it. My thoughts on last week. Overall, great second week. I want to see a little more in your responses, and I'm not singling anybody out specifically. That was just kind of my thoughts as a whole from the discussion, and so maybe it could have been a little better in terms of the responses, but overall, pretty good. I think we've got 16 weeks to work through this. We're going to figure it out, and yeah. So for this week, we are moving on. We've already covered 2 chapters in the course, chapters 1 and chapters 2. Now we're going to move on to chapter 3, which is on the topic of sensation and perception, kind of 2 sides of the same coin. Sensation is the process of stimulating our sensory organs, like our eyes, our ears, our nose, etc. And perception is how we what our understanding of that experience. So when I have a certain smell and I walk into my house and a certain smell or aroma hits my nose, my brain is processing that, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, what is that smell? If you walk into your mom's house or your grandma's house and she's baking cookies, your brain is going to process that information and probably evoke a lot of memories, like, a lot of pleasant memories of when mom or grandma or whomever used to make cookies for me. So this chapter is kind of like chapter 2. There's a lot of anatomy in this chapter. So if you've taken a biology course, zoology, anatomy course, then a lot of this is going to be overview, specifically the eye and the ear, where we spend a lot of most of our anatomy kind of focusing on those two areas: sense, hearing, and vision. As humans, those are our two biggest senses. We are very much a visual species. A lot of our brain power is dedicated towards the visual cortex, and in hearing, probably a close second. So we'll talk about the other senses as well, but just know that the majority of the chapter will focus on our eyes and our ears. So check that out. But afterwards, you should have a pretty good understanding of this process of sensation and perception. You should be able to define and differentiate between the two. They work hand in hand, like sensation is followed by perception, but you should be able to distinguish between the two. Getting into the anatomy, you should be able to identify different parts of the eye, like the iris, the cornea, the retina, all that good stuff. You'll explain the properties of light and color, or theories of color vision. There's a few different theories about how we experience color vision. We'll also talk about being colorblind. If you are male, if you're a male in this class, you're more likely to be colorblind, not just because you're in this class, but males as a whole tend to be colorblind over women. Afterwards, you'll look at describing the organization of visual perception. So how do we make sense of all this visual stimuli that comes into our contact with our eyes? We're going to be getting back into principles of Gestalt psychology, which should ring a bell from chapter 1. Afterwards, you'll switch gears and look at the ear, and again, kind of looking at the anatomy of the ear, the different parts. There are 3 parts, or 3 sections of the ear. There is much more to our ear than just this flap of cartilage and skin on the side of our head. In fact, this is the pinna, or the outer ear. Much of what we think of as the ear and the hearing part of the ear happens inside. It happens in the middle and the inner ear. When we talk about like the cochlea, the eardrum, hammer, anvil, stirrup, all that good stuff. So you'll have a pretty good idea of how hearing works. Then afterwards, we'll spend a little bit of time on some of the other senses, the chemical senses like skin, like touch, kinesthesis, and vestibular sense. So remember, I think from the last video you saw in chapter 2, the response paper video, that there are more than just the 5 senses, and this is where we're going to start adding on to those. We're going to add kinesthesis and vestibular sense. Both are very, very important, that you would not be able to function in your day-to-day life realistically without them. So kudos to those other senses. And then finally, we're going to look at ESP, or extrasensory perception, and what psychologists think and know about that. So my challenge to anyone in this course is, if you believe in ESP, please raise my hand. Whoop. Oh, we got a believer out there. No, I'm just kidding. A lot of this, unfortunately, if you're someone who does believe in ESP or think that stuff is cool, it is still cool, but it's cool for comic books and movies and stuff like that. But this chapter will probably dash your hopes about ever developing ESP. There's research out there who has offered $1 million for anybody who can come into the laboratory and prove definitively that ESP is real. And hopefully you can imagine how many checks they have cut over the time since that started. A big fat 0. So again, it's a cool topic for comic books and movies and pop culture, but doesn't hold up in terms of science and reality. So that is chapter 3, sensation and perception. This is a very interesting chapter. I hope you find it as interesting as I do. Because we encounter so much stimuli throughout the day. How do we tune some of it out? We pay attention to some stuff, and we tune out other stuff. And basically, what we pay attention to, what everything else we're blind to. So that's kind of the theme of the chapter: is what's in our senses, what's in our view is what we see, but everything else we are blocking out constantly. I mean, just thinking there's so many sights and sounds and smells, that our brain just can't process all that stuff. So that's kind of the theme I want you to focus on for this week's discussion, is this topic of attention. I think our chapter loosely talks about attention, but A problem that I see a lot in terms of attention is a divided attention. We've got our phones in our faces, and we're distracted by our phones, we're distracted by this and that. And the worst part of it is we sometimes do that to ourselves when we're driving. So for this week's discussion post, I want you to talk about the consequences of split attention, and I want you to find an article about texting and driving and some of the dangers about that. So I want you to be aware of the laws involving texting and driving, because they have changed in Oklahoma within the last couple of years. I believe it's now illegal, and it was, prior to that, I don't know if there was any statute on the board. I might be wrong about that. So I want you to focus on the legal side of it. What are the consequences of it, and kind of just summarize that in your discussion post. But that's up. Please make sure you have that in by Friday. Make sure to have your initial post in by Wednesday. So, and then also there is another response paper this week. There's a TED Talk on sensation and perception in terms of our experience of reality, kind of a real deep dive into this topic of sensation and perception. So I want you to watch the TED Talk. Let me go to our homepage real quick. Sorry, I should have had this pulled up earlier. But I want you to watch the TED Talk and complete the response paper. Sorry, my computer is being really, really slow. This is really bad. This is like the worst YouTube. This is exactly what I don't want. It's just dead time like this. Okay, there we go. Got content up. So the YouTube video, the TED Talk is for this week. It's by Donald Hoffman. Do we see reality as it is? So watch that and complete the response paper and the 3 prompts. Both are listed under week 3's content. And please turn that in by next Sunday. There's a Dropbox open for you. So turn it in by next Sunday. You have a week to do so. So I think that's it for week 3. So just one more quick rundown. If you didn't get full credit on your discussion posts, make sure your responses to your peers are lengthy, and make sure you're responding in a timely manner. That's probably where you missed your points. Go ahead and read Chapter 3, Sensation and Perception, for this week. Complete the discussion on attention. Make sure you get that in a timely manner. That's due by Friday. And then finally, complete the response paper for this week's TED Talk by Donald Hoffman, Do We See Reality as It Is? I think you'll really enjoy this TED Talk. It's a fascinating subject. It's a fascinating chapter. One of the more interesting chapters I think we cover in this because it just kind of changes the way we think about all the stuff we come into contact with. I don't know. Anyways, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but all right, so I'll leave you at that. I hope everyone has a great weekend, a great Labor Day. Enjoy the extended weekend if you're so lucky to be off or have the time off. So I'll leave you at that. All right, take care. See you next week. Bye.